Okay then, Helldivers, we are back and we seem to be hitting more worrisome times as the game hits all new lows when it comes to the player base numbers. There's been a load more changes that have happened inside of the game just recently, some of which are okay, but some of which are really not dealing too well, and a lot of players thinking we should just scale back to an old build that they've had previously. With that being said, we're going to dive on into everything today. If you haven't already, smash that beautiful blue thumbs up and subscribe with post notifications turned on. It'd be greatly appreciated. And make sure you check out our sponsor, Instant Gaming, the platform where you can buy your video games cheaper with PC and consoles, with the best deals, offers, promotions, and discounts, all running up to 70% off. It's a no-brainer. Go and get your games a little bit cheaper today via the link in the description. But with that being said, let's dive on into the game and see exactly what it is that's going on. So a Reddit post actually managed to surface with regards to armor modifications that have come up inside of the game, of which apparently were accidental. This one's a really random one, but it states right here they gave this armor a skull and then removed the skull. What? And apparently this was a double model build-up. What I mean by this is this skill was unintentionally added as to how it was. Apparently, looking at the original concept art, a skull was visible, but it was apparently added in accidentally during a patch. I'm not too sure how you accidentally add that, but the Baskinator did confirm that it looks awful and it's actually a bug. They'll be fixing it soon. It doesn't really seem too much like a bug. It's a bit of a weird one for me personally, but it is a one none the same. So make sure that you guys don't get too used to it. It will be coming out very soon. On top of that, the Impalers. There is a massive Reddit post that's been making its way around the ring just recently with regards to the most recent patch for 1.001.004 with regards to how the Impalers actually react. And this one's an interesting one, and I want to know via the comment section if you guys agree with this one. But it states, I went into the Impalers to see how they have changed in patch 0.1.001.004. They reduced the explosion radius of Tentacle's stabbing ability. Now, Impalers still one-shot and launch you into space when coming out of the ground, but attack hitboxes are so small that I stood in one spot for 5 minutes while the Impaler missed me with all 3 tentacles. The Scavenger eventually walked up and knocked me about 10 foot deep into a hole, and then repeatedly impacted was made. The tentacles didn't hit very often now. It mostly just gently pushes the Emancipator or the Patriot exosuits around, not doing much damage, and took over 30 hits and only started smoking a bit. They no longer seem to perma-ragdoll us, which is nice, but they're not really a threat now unless they get lucky when popping up. Outright ignoring them is much easier now, and I'm assuming this is a temp fix until they sort out their ragdolling problem, which is a bit of a strange one. I haven't had much of an insert with them. I've been playing primarily on the bot side since that update has come through, so I can't really make too much of an input on it, but I am intrigued to know what your guys' opinions are on the Impaler's tentacles as of right now. Obviously, the ragdoll was a little bit insane. They would be able to sling you so far across the map. It was absolutely ridiculous, and since the patch, apparently they've really toned it down. As to whether that's a good thing or a bad thing, we'll have to wait and see, but the community at hand doesn't seem to be happy with absolutely anything at all. Diminishing the main player base so damn much, it's actually insane, but we'll get into that in just a little bit. Twinbeard has actually taken to Discord after many conversations with the general public with regards to the game, and had a statement that was made. He stated right here, there is definitely hope. I know it can feel like it's been forever when you play a game regularly, and sure enough, there are games that both live and die in that time frame, but in the grand scheme of things, it's only been a few months, albeit things happening at insane speeds. In terms of making decisions, it's a fairly long time, and there are definitely areas where it's fair to criticize and we haven't delivered. In terms of scaling up a studio, setting new processes, structures in play at a small company that wasn't prepared for anything like this, developing new stuff at the same time as you're fixing stuff, it's however a very short time. There will be more bumps in the road, and it might not help alleviate much now, but I really think and hope we're on our way to improving, and that bump will be fewer ahead. I wanted to simply use Yoda's old quote, "There is another" here, but couldn't find a good way, so this will have to suffice. Now, for me, this is a very difficult one. I think that when you put a game out, you obviously open yourself up to the fact that this may well blow up. You may well reach a larger target audience, and you may well find a lot more success in your game. Unfortunately for the guys at Arrowhead, they obviously found their success, and they've reaped their rewards in fundings quite substantially. The numbers of what they wanted are completely different to the numbers of what they obtained, and this game has done very, very well in the 6 months that it's launched. Unfortunately, the changes that they made seem to be a negative to the general consumer, and I don't really agree with this whole basis of them stating that it's a small company that wasn't prepared for anything like this. When you release a game, you should always really be prepared for something like this. It's a lot like trying to become a YouTuber in that regard. You upload a video with the potential of it going viral and being the biggest new trend. It's kind of the way that you have to go forward with these things. So anticipating that your game is not going to do well genuinely isn't a great business model when it comes to actively managing a game. Now, what is it that they should do from this point forward? Well, a Reddit post with nearly 2,000 upvotes actually states quite a large thing, and I think that I would solemnly agree with this one, which makes absolutely zero sense to me, but I really do at this stage think the only way you're saving this is if we do drag it back. It states, Arrowhead, just save face and roll back the game to whatever version was before you broke Flame. Drop the new content back in a working state and take the L. Terminates are absolutely unbearable right now, and they're what most of you players base stuck around for. You're just breaking your game worse and worse, and you need to stop. Step back. If you really somehow can't put Flamers back into the way that they were before breaking the entire game, it might be time to roll back the version for a while. I know it's gross, I know it's going to lose players, I know it's going to be sour as hell, but roll back and re-release Escalation of Freedom, then the War Bond into the version of the game where you didn't break things, if you're really that adamant that you can't just roll back fire correctly. In case it isn't obvious, just effing roll back the fire correctly. Well, unfortunately, the way that these games actually work is when they actually did have the model with the flame the way that it was prior, everything wasn't in the game. So as far as a business model stands and a business concept, it would never actually happen. The main reason for that is because people have made purchases of the new War Bond, and they've obviously sunk money into it based on the Escalation of Freedom, and this hasn't been quite a decent loadout. The problem with this is if they roll this back, their next battle is then going to be that they've been charged for something that they now don't have access to until they re-release it. It's not a great business model, and it isn't something that Arrowhead will end up doing just based on their main consensus of how it is that they actually run their company. They're not going to do that whatsoever. What I do think that they should do is just roll back to an older model in a basis of the balance patches. I don't know how this all works and how the main consensus is with regards to that sort of stuff, but it needs to be a basis of actually holding face and being able to do something that can actually work as a positive for the gaming community, because right now we are losing so many players. This Reddit post right here actually did quite well with a full breakdown of all of the player base, and it's kind of scary to see. We'll give you guys a couple of the figures right now, and you guys can take a look if you really want to. But it states right here that just by going by Steam numbers, there was a low of 11,000, Tuesday's low was 9,900, and it's about a 9% drop in one day. Steam is roughly 70% of the user base, with us losing players on a concurrent basis. This has been quite scary, because around a week ago we had a 62,000 player peak within the week, and when we look at the actual peaks of it right now in the last 24 hours, we have got 9,000 players playing right now with 26,000 players in the last 24 hours. The numbers have tanked substantially, which for lovers of the game is actually quite concerning. I would hate to see this game actually drop, and it seems to be quite a worrisome factor, but hopefully we don't see much of this more depletion, because I really don't think the game can actually sustain much more loss. Now, as always, at the end of the video, we're going to take a look at your top comments from the previous video, which was a substantially bad one, as we weren't expecting everything that came up in that video. If you want to go and check it out, the link's in the description. But the first top comment here with over 140 likes on it states, anytime the word realism is said about an alt universe game that has cryo-frozen soldiers, giant space traveling bugs, and robots trying to make over a fictitious planet called Super Earth, all the while having the ability to travel between stars instantly using fuel distilled from the bugs, Giving me a effing break, please. Where does the realism enter into the scenario? The people at Arrowhead thinking this needs to put down the pipe and check into rehab. I do think it's a little bit of a weird comment. I mean, obviously I can understand why it's taken such a hit on it right now, considering the main basis of the game and how much is taking a hammering. But yeah, I do understand what you're saying. You're not in the main limelight for the freedom movement inside of realism. It's not really your main concept when it comes to this sort of game, but they want the weapons to be that way entailed, so we'll have to see how that one goes. But the second top comment right here states, I have a feeling that the people at Arrowhead have such a massive ego or spiteful view towards things and seem to be proud to admit fault. I don't personally agree with this one. I think that actually they are quite upfront and quite sustainable when it comes to that basis. They don't mind admitting fault. I'm very much the same. Sometimes I'll report a video and I'll just get it completely wrong, and I'm more than happy to hold my hands up. That just happens to be the case, and sometimes it happens. But I don't think that they're massive egos or have spite towards anything at all. I think that that's probably a bit of a bad take, but we'll have to see how it pans out. And the final comment right here is, Arrowhead, can you please stop destroying your own game for 5 minutes? And I think that one literally just says it all, and it says everything that it needs to say. But yeah, we'll be interested to see where this goes over the next week or so, and hopefully we can keep you guys in the loop with everything that's happening. It's a damn scary time for Helldivers, that's for sure. I'm really concerned to see what the future of this is going to be, but we'll make sure that we stay up to date with everything that's happening inside of the game. Thank you so much again for watching, guys. If you haven't already, like, subscribe, appreciate your faces, and as always, I'll see you in the clouds.